Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Well, it's time. I've got 12 o'clock.
Close the door.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to Madrid and the mobile ad hoc session. You've probably all seen this, but I just want to bring your attention to the note well. By participating in the IETF, you agree to follow the IETF process and policies, and there's a number of best current practices that you should be familiar with that are outlined on this page. And we want you to know really well that the IETF meetings and the virtual meetings are for professional collaboration. We want to create an environment and in which many people can, from different backgrounds, can participate. Can you hear me? And we don't tolerate any harassment while at the IETF meetings or virtual meetings or social events. And if you have any issues, you're encouraged to bring them up with the ombudsperson. So meeting points and tips just to make the meeting go are outlined here. Please remember to sign in if you're in the locally in the room. And for remote participants, please make sure your mics are off when you're not participating. And just here's a reference for the resources for these meetings. And the resources for the workroom session. The agenda today, so we're going to go through the chairs, the draft status, and then we have an update on Kira performance by Roland Bless. We have an update on some implementation on AODV V2 from Charlie Perkins. And then we have a presentation on MANET interworking from Fred Templin. And then we're going to discuss about the charter and the issues that we currently face with participation, et cetera, at the end here. And then there'll be time for wrap up. Anything else you want? Oh, yes. If we could get a note taker. The session is being recorded and stuff, but it would help if anybody wants to contribute to the notes. And Jim?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble getting that stupid thing to get me in, so
Okay.
I am here. But can I make a request that we move the charter discussion to I may have to step out.
Okay.
So can we do that first before we do the presentations, if nobody objects, and have that conversation? Because obviously I need to be here for that, but
Yes.
I may not have to step out, but I may have to.
Okay.
So I don't want to miss that, obviously.
All right. Okay. You want to take that and lead with that?
Yes. As you can already see on the agenda, first it said new charter discussion, and that was on the agenda as posted last week. However, in the meantime, we talked to our AD, and he has some maybe well-founded objections to us rechartering at this stage, given the level of energy in the group, as he sees it. So at this point in time, we are not going to recharter. We keep going under the current charter. And the discussion that we now need to have is what we can and cannot do under the current charter. So maybe Don, if you can advance the slides to the point where we have the current charter. Yes. So this was copied verbatim from what's on the MANET list, and I think the first part is more or less boilerplate that you may have seen before. So I would go to the next one. There, the first paragraph covers DLAB and DLAB extensions. That work has been done. Some extensions are still in the pipeline. We are also responsible for DLAB maintenance, so new DLAB extensions may be coming our way. So that's all good. And then there's a bit about coordination with other groups. Babel has now been integrated into the MANET working group, so to speak. So we're, although it doesn't say that in the charter yet, we're also doing Babel maintenance and extensions. And that's why Donald Eastlake has been added as a third chair to this group. Donald being the former chair of Babel. We're obviously still doing the maintenance of standard track protocols that have been developed in this group before. You see there the work items as the group saw them back in 2016 when the current charter was established. Some of these things have been done, some of them have been overcome by events, I would say. We have developed a dynamic link exchange protocol. We did do a credit window scheme. We never did the statistics. We never did the multicast forwarding information base for MANET. And we did not document the challenges, best practices for deploying and managing MANET networks, because the feeling was that there's such a large difference in practices out there for people who deploy MANETs, and they're not always forthcoming with the details about their setups, that this would be a very difficult effort. So the next slide, and the 7 slides thereafter have the proposed text for a new charter. And this text was also posted to the mailing list earlier this week by Donald. But we can consider this now as overcome by events and for reference only. But if we get to the discussions of what we can do under the current charter, maybe it's good to look at some of these things. And if we advance a bit further, Don, can we? Okay, this is still old text that has been retained. This is about DLab. Go on further. This is something new. This was brought in by people from Fraunhofer FKIE in Germany, who have already contributed in the past to the working group. Most recently with a number of DLab extension drafts that are still in the pipeline. And they have some ideas on having a RESTconf interface and a YANG model on a MANET router that allows external parties like node serving applications or network management stations to retrieve the state of the network as seen by that router. And that information can come from DLab and it can come from the routing protocols that are running on that router. And this aggregated information would be made available through this RESTconf interface. And this is work that I think they have already begun to do. There's not an internet draft for this yet, but I feel that we could have that before, say, a next meeting. And at least there is, as I sense it, a lot of commitment to work on this. And that is something that has been lacking sometimes on other things that we had listed as work items. So a question would be, would something like this, can something like this be made to fit under the current charter? Now you've seen the charter text, so I would like to hear opinions. My personal opinion, head off, is that, well, there is something about network management in there, but that's different. That's about doing an informational draft, and this is, as far as I can see it, aiming at standard strike.
Do we want to address item by item, or do we want to just keep going, Jim? Oh, so it's okay. Okay.
I would prefer to do it item by item, because otherwise we get confused.
Okay, Lou Berger. Yeah, I took your statement as you want to discuss it now. If you want to discuss it later, I'm fine to wait.
Now is fine.
Okay, so for me, exposing things via Yang is very much in the spirit of what has been in the charter. I know when I started looking at DLAP, I said, why aren't we using a Yang model for this? And the answer was, well, history. So if history brought us to DLAP, and at that time we thought about using Yang, it seems very reasonable to say, okay, DLAP's the past, now let's also look at using Yang today for something, the superset of the information. To me, it seems within the spirit of the charter, although I don't believe it's in the language of the charter. So, but I don't see that as a big change. So that's answering your specific question. I actually had I have a comment on the language, but I see an AD coming up, so I don't know if he wants to respond to the first point before I go to the technical point.
Sorry, Lou, I didn't mean to interrupt. So this is my personal view. I need to look at it in a bit more detail, but you know, if I look at all the other working groups I have, everybody does a Yang model for basically everything. And most of the charters don't specifically call that out as a work item. So I think that I'd be comfortable with being able to do, you know, this Yang stuff, and I don't think I would have a problem. But So we can look at it. So that would be my preference, as we talked before, is like if there's work that we can do now that is in the charter or can be fitted into the existing charter, then that's great. What I don't want to do is recharter the working group for documents where there's just one person that's interested in the thing and is only one person who's going to work on it. And I don't want to recharter for work that has already been socialized elsewhere within the IETF and so far not got the community behind it. So that's why I'm reluctant to do a recharter. But if we, you know, I would also say I'm not in any hurry to close the working group. So if there is genuine work that fits within the charter, then let's do that. Is kind of where I fit, and this I think fits in the charter from basically what you said. So I think we're good.
Great, thank you. The specific point I wanted to raise on the language here is, why are we talking about RESTconf and JSON? When we do a Yang model, the power of the Yang model is that it's independent of encoding and it's independent of transport. Why are we talking about specific encoding and transport here?
Good question. I don't have a good answer for that, but I will.
Okay.
So I will check.
I think, you know, I certainly would fully get behind the Yang work and could see the value in that. If there is a reason that in a specific operational environment, it makes sense to use one transport over the other, that might be a good, you know, applicability statement, but it's not tied into the basic model definition. So I think there are two separate points here. One of them I'm fully convinced on. The other one I'm interested in hearing why.
Okay, noted. So you're saying that whether you make this Yang model accessible via RESTconf interface is an implementational thing?
So whether you use, let's say, RESTconf or CoreConf is a sort of a environment constraint, an operational environment constraint or decision. And there may be good reason to use RESTconf for MANET, for it to be recommended, but that's a separate conversation from defining the model for the information you want to make available. So I can see the Yang model, and it makes a lot of sense to me, or Yang models. I don't understand the motivation for calling out RESTconf and JSON, and I'd like to understand that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying I don't understand. But it's, and that's one. And two is it's completely separate.
Yes, it's clear. What? Yeah, one comment from my side about DLab and this Yang model. So this is intended to get the information from the router and not directly from the modems. So first the router will aggregate the information, then make it available to the outside world. Let's move on. Okay. This is going to be more contentious then, I think. I looked at the charter before the current charter, and then that was very nice and short, and there were basically two main items, which was do a standard tracks proactive protocol, which became OLSR v2, and do a standard track reactive protocol, which went under different names, started as DIMO and then became AODV v2. And that, for various reasons, never materialized until the chairs and AD at the time in 2016 decided to recharter and gave us the charter that we currently are under. And there was no longer a work item for developing a reactive protocol. And I believe that AODV v2 continued for a while as a AD-sponsored document, but Charlie would know more about this. And now there's the idea to bring it back. And personally, again, no head. I would like to see that happen because I think I have a use case for this. And I also, to the best of my abilities, would be willing to contribute. But I don't immediately see this fitting in the charter. So I wonder whether someone has any comments on that.
Yeah, I looked at this and you said that the original AODV draft is experimental. So this work as follow-on, but trying to be standards-based, is that outside of the charter, I guess is the question, right? And I think there's still another question is there enough people to work on it too at this point in time?
Yeah, so Jim, so my read of the charter is it's not in charter because it was specifically taken out of charter in, as you say, what, 2016 or something. So in order for you to progress that to standards track, number one, it needs to be in charter, which means we need to do a recharter to do that. And in order for me to be convinced to do a recharter, I need to see working group consensus that there are enough people that want this work and are prepared to work on it. So that's the bottom line. So if the working group and it has that consensus, then okay, we'll have to go through the recharter process to be able to do it. But that's not the sense that I've gotten, but I'm open to being wrong.
That's clear. So the onus is on the working group to show that people are working on this. Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
Charlie, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Am I in the queue to say something?
Yes.
Okay. Well, perhaps best would be for me to, take any questions during my presentation. But I don't know exactly how much participation is needed. There obviously has been some participation in the working group. And at the time when this protocol work was taken out of the charter, it was, well, it wasn't really a smooth working process. I'll just say it that way. And then AODV, for me personally, it was, yes, indeed, it was a personal draft for a while, but I was involved with a lot of other things, and it didn't really push on me to finish it. But at the time when the draft was taken out of the working group charter, it was already practically done, and there had been a lot of reviews of the document and many changes required for conforming not only to RSC 5444, but also the language of OLSR v2 draft. So anyway, I guess I'll just leave it. I wanted to respond to Jim's point directly, and we'll just leave everything else for if it comes up during my presentation. Thank you.
Lou, you wrote something in the chat. Is that for AODV?
I heard Jim suggest that he would like to see support. So I'm offering maybe you want to do a show of hands poll to at least get the temperature of the room. Alternatively, you just do it on list. Eventually, you're going to have to do it on list either way.
Okay, can we do that?
What's that? Do you want to do show of hands?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to say?
Are you interested in working on AODV? Yes means contribute. No, you don't think we should do it. No opinion is whatever.
No means sorry.
You don't want the work group to work on it. Or you don't think the work group to work on it. And yes means you want to contribute.
And there. Did you terminate?
Did you stop the poll?
I didn't.
I didn't. Oh,
Someone canceled the poll.
not me, not knowing me.
No. Is it? It's still up for me. It shows.
All right, so this is a new poll. If you voted for it again, yeah.
Seems that
All right. Is that sufficient? I think we've given the size of the group and time. That's it. So now I'll terminate it. All right. All right. Next item. Will it?
yeah, you need to, yeah, otherwise we have no time for presentations. Yeah, this is basically prompted by the work that Fred proposed, but it is not the work itself, because in the discussion among the chairs, we came to the conclusion that the first thing that would be needed was a gap analysis. Is there really a problem here? Is there something that needs to be done? And even then, later we could, if that turns out to be the case, then we get to the obvious next question: who's willing to work on it? But the first thing would be to do this gap analysis. My take on the current charter is that this gap analysis, at least, could be done under the management part of the current charter. Jim, if you want to speak anytime.
So just to be clear, you can do a gap analysis. You don't have to publish a document as an RFC. There's no reason why you can't do an informational document that's doing this gap analysis, and that's fine. As long, you know, the charter is important if you want that work to go through to RFC. If you don't, you can use it as input to make a decision as a working group on whether you want to do that work or not.
Lou?
This is explicitly in charter.
Yeah.
Read your deliverables.
I actually did.
To the presentations. In the interest of time and giving the presenters time, we should move to the presentations.
There's only 2 more slides, and I think they're stuff that's already covered.
Okay.
So then quickly click through them and then bring up the first presentation.
So we can close off on this topic, but you know, from what I heard, there's some work that can probably be covered in under the existing charter, and you can focus on that. And then based upon that gap analysis that you do, may generate work that would require us to recharter. That's not taken into account the AOD v2 stuff. The chairs need to make a determination on that. I mean, you've got the poll, but presumably you're going to need to go to the mailing list to actually find out who's actually willing to do this. So that's kind of where we're at. So I guess my summary would be that, you know, there's not an immediate recharter going to happen. There's some work that needs to happen first, and the output of that will determine whether there's a recharter or not.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking it first. So, because I am going to need to step out because I've just got another thing. So, so thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And you're up, Roland. I just cut the time down a little bit so that we can get all the presentations.
Yeah, sure.
So try to stick to
No, I'm Roland. Just want to give a brief update on Kira in MANET. Yeah, so Kira started out as routing protocol for control planes, being zero touch, scalable, and so on. So the idea was, so there were comments from the community, why not? How does it perform in mobile ad hoc networks? So the features are basically, it's an ID-based protocol, tries to be efficient by using proximity neighbor selection, proximity routing. It has things like path discovery, so it will take a first path that is using mainly the overlay routing, and then when their answer comes back, you have a later path. It's a little bit between proactive and reactive protocols. Has dynamics and stuff. It is loop-free even during conversions and so on. And a nice additional thing is that it also provides a key value store, so you can basically register names and services and look up, do the lookup. So nodes can actually find each other, and that could also be used, for example, to detect whether there are any hybrid nodes that have actually access to the internet. What recently has been done is, since the last presentation I had in Dublin was improving on some things like path validation. So nodes are trusting more or less the information that are in the source routes, which Kira uses. But routing information from other nodes must be validated before they are actually used. And also we came up with a scheme that we called fast vicinity alternatives. Since Kira maintains full 2-hop vicinity graph, it can to pre-compute the path IDs it uses in its forwarding tier. We can use that in order to quickly find alternative paths in case a link fails. So for example, in the lower part here, if the direct link fails, then maybe if there is another path to that node, then we can easily find that and use that. Um, we've done that modification, and you can see in the comparison of the old version and the new version that this already improves a bit. The delivery ratio, which is shown here, a very simple scenario here. And also the stretch values got a little bit better, yeah, because the routes are then a little bit more efficient than using the ordinary regular rediscovery mechanism. Another thing that is not yet documented in the internet draft is fast next stop detour. That is basically the case if, let's say in the example here, if the data packet is sent along a link to the next node, and it should follow basically the next stop from B to C, then this link may have been a problem. And then in this case, the data packet actually can be redirected via some alternative path. Meanwhile, the control plane will inform the node that the link is broken so that it can update its invalid routes. And the nice thing about that, it works in the forwarding tier. So the detour can be simply directly be used in case B notices that the direct link to C has been failing. So in that case, it simply puts another path ID on top of the data packet, and this gets removed at the next node, which would be X. And then the packet arrives at C, and the normal forwarding can continue. So that is without any modification of the current scheme. The cost is that we add another path ID on top. We've done a little bit more simulations. So this is a larger scenario where you have 600 nodes, roughly, also random waypoint model, the usual Wi-Fi range. And you can see that Kira actually doesn't perform so bad in the sense that you have quite good delivery ratio for data packets, which is above 95%, and control messages are even higher due to the source routing that we are using, which is more robust due to with respect to the changes. And yeah, then also packet stretch is quite acceptable, and overhead could be possibly improved. There's no real MANET specific tuning right now, so one could work on that. And we did some not direct comparison to other protocols, so we did not implement the other protocols, but we looked at the scenarios from the literature, used the same scenario, and you can see here in comparison to some other protocols that the delivery ratio is also quite nice in comparison to existing MANET protocols. Yeah, if you're interested in that work, I would really like to hear your comments. As I said, it's not meant to be a MANET protocol, but it can actually also work quite well in that environment. And what we are doing with our existing implementation to perform some tests in a real Wi-Fi mesh. So yeah, if you're interested, please comment on the list or also on the routing error working group mailing list. That would be nice. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next presentation because we're a little tight on time, and at the end we'll do the document status that we missed or skipped over. I lost the slide. Can you do it? It's supposed to be the slide. Yeah, change it. Okay. Does anybody know how to switch the slides out? I lost control here. Yeah. think I got it. Sorry. Next one, AODV. All right, sorry, Charlie, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, and let's see now if there's a on this screen, I do not see something that says slide clicker.
Oh, do you want to control the slides? So sorry.
Well, probably easier, but you can if you want.
You've got control.
Okay. Anyway, well, good morning. It's very early here. I'm Charles Perkins, and I last year was it was suggested that AODV version 2 work could be revived, and so we decided to go ahead and updated the document as needed, and with ID nits and so on. There wasn't too many changes involved to the actual text. But then on the list, there was a lot of discussion about implementation. So that is why I made this presentation about the implementations that I was aware of. It's currently an individual draft. As was mentioned, it had been an AD-sponsored draft for a while. Alvaro was AD and was sponsoring it. At the time, I was employed doing other things, and also there was a AODV Ripple draft that looked, and that was interesting work, and it has been, it's in the RFC editor's queue. It's basically done. So this new draft for AODV version 2 is there, and ready to, if you're interested, to take a look. The original work, as mentioned, was it's an experimental protocol that was to combine all the work in the working group at that time on reactive protocols, which basically ended up being dynamic source routing, DSR, and AODV, ad hoc on-demand distance vector routing. So that went on for a while, and since there was two protocols, Ian Chakaras, who was also co-chair at that time, decided we should call it DIMO to not favor either one of the protocols. And that went on for a while. And then they eventually, the folks in DSR didn't really help us very much, and they were not participating. And not only that, but we did some work, and it showed that the path accumulation function of DSR in many situations was detrimental to performance, basically because it made the packets larger. I should mention that a lot of interest in AODV and AODV version 2 had to do with scalability, and I didn't bring the results, but it's published. We simulated up to 10,000 nodes, and the scalability of reactor protocols is really very good, even up to such huge populations. So some of the what we learned from that work, as I mentioned, that the path accumulation function was ambivalent. It helps sometime and hurts sometime, and it has other features as well that you might learn about if you're interested. So anyway, as also mentioned, because of relatively unhappy situation, AODV was taken out of the charter, and then it could be put back in. And at the time it was removed, it was practically done, at least in my opinion. And as far as technical issues in the draft, I'm not aware of anything that needs to be that I'm not aware of technical problems with the draft. Even the security section was pretty well combed through and found to be okay. Anyway, this is about the implementations. I listed these implementations here. As you can see, they're simulations and protocol design. Was there a question? Did I miss a question?
I was just going to be mindful of the time. I saw you had 12 slides and you were talking, and I just want to make sure.
Okay.
The time. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I will hurry up. So these are all published, and I won't go into. The point of the rest of the presentation was to say some things about each one of these, and I will now do that. But this, obviously, you can go get the papers if you want. I have the papers, by the way, also if you're interested, but I don't prefer to give them out without permission of the authors. AODV was analyzed. This paper is about 12 years old, so this was when the protocol was actually a work item in the MANET group. So they did simulations under NS2, and their results, in a nutshell, was that the AODV version 2 performance was uniformly better than AODV. And by the way, this paper does not bring it out, but at least in our work, we decided to take out the hello function because it was really just causing a lot of collisions and almost always had no beneficial effect. So especially on layers 2, where the layer 2 link between nodes is more reliable. So anyway, if you take out hello, you get some good results. That's what we found. This I also included Lotta Steenbrink. She's a co-author of AODV version 2, and she had her master thesis and did an implementation. But I don't ever remember getting the information about her results on the implementation. So I can try to get that as well. This protocol was simulated under OMNET, which is a well-known simulating system. And again, this is for AODV versus DIMO versus AODV2, which basically means AODV version 2 against a previous revision of DIMO. And I think this previous revision of DIMO is one that had the path accumulation function. So in a nutshell, AODV version 2 in this simulation test bed really works better. It's, at least on these performance metrics. This paper I found it by looking through the bibliography for some of the papers. And it was interesting because it was targeted for a Raspberry Pi, and they were planning to use location information as well, which has been published in other areas for AODV using location information. And it has obviously benefits and maybe some occasional problems as well. So
Charlie, can you just
yes.
We want one more presentation and we're running.
Okay, well, you know, everyone is like that. We have these publications, and we have user space implementation and a relatively complete design. The recent work was in NS3. It also shows improvements in results compared to AODV. And that's you can look at the slides later and get an idea about the counter performance. Lastly, I'll just wrap up to say that I am interested in doing the work and finishing it. What these simulations and discussions does not reiterate that the scalability of AODV and AODV version 2 is really, really extremely good for large ad hoc networks. And I guess I'm more than out of time. Thank you for your interest, and I'll be available if needed.
Thank you. Fred, we're ready. I'll give you.
Do you have me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This presentation is about MANET internetworking. I got control, so I'm going to go to the next slide.
You've got the control if you want.
Okay. So mobile ad hoc networks are very interesting for connecting up devices that need to do device-to-device communications in a multi-hop kind of a fashion. But where they really become interesting is when you hook them up to the internet. And here we have a slide showing two different MANETs connected to the internet by a proxy node that's shown in green here. Then 5G space, that might be the G node B, for example. So within each MANET, we can do multi-hop routing thanks to the MANET routing protocols like OLSR v2 and Babel and possibly even AOD v2 as well. So within each MANET, we can already do that using the MANET routing protocols. We can do multi-hopping from node to node, device to device. But where it becomes interesting is how can we get a node that's within the MANET on the left-hand side to connect to a correspondent node in the internet. And for that case, a nomadic address for that node is fine because the node is calling out from the MANET out to a fixed node in the internet where the address of the node in the internet is pervasively available. But on the right-hand side, we show a correspondent node in the internet calling into a node in a mobile ad hoc network. And what that means is that MANET node requires a stable address that doesn't change even if it moves around. So, for example, if that MANET router was to move from MANET 2 to MANET 1, it should still be addressable using the same stable IP address or subnet prefix. And then another interesting case comes when you are using the internet as transit between two different MANETs. So a node in a first MANET calling out through the internet as transit, then into a second MANET. In that case, both of those MANET nodes require a stable address that doesn't change even as nodes move about throughout the network. And the way that we can make that happen is by establishing an overlay over the MANETs in the internet. Now, does this mean that we need to have one big overlay for the entire internet? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that a mobility service provider provides the overlay that nodes can join, and there can be many different mobility service providers in the internet, each with their own overlays. So I'm going to turn down to some mailing list posts that were put on the list over the course of the last couple of weeks. This was from 7/17/2025. When configuring an overlay multi-link network interface on each MANET router, we can use standard and unmodified IPv6 auto configuration protocols, such as IP version 6 neighbor discovery and DHCP-v6. It would work the same way for any MANET routing protocol. And I'm already doing this today using an unmodified Kia DHCP-v6 server in the RADVD IPv6 neighbor discovery implementation. Those are currently working in the code that I've got for doing the overlay. And then a post that was on 7/18/2025. Remember, we said that MANET routing within the context of this working group assumes standard IP forwarding rules, including the hop-by-hop decrementing of the hop limit and TTL. So if you want to treat the MANET as a single unified link, you need to configure an overlay, which is exactly what the Arrow Omni service does. It's based on IP version 6 encapsulation as an adaptation layer service. And again, standard services like DHCP version 6 and IP version 6 neighbor discovery work as normal. The overlay approach also supports heterogeneous radio types and multiple interfaces per node in the lower layers. But what it's really good for is global mobile internetworking service for all airline and sea space mobility use cases. And that's the last of my charts. I just wanted to call out those points that were already discussed on the list and highlight some of the important points of those messages. I'll take any questions that there might be.
So I guess the question, Jim had brought up the point about, we had the item on the last item we spoke on the charter that was related to the problem and you know, like outlining the problem, not necessarily a solution, which you're proposing both, but it would be helpful, I think, if you could help with the problem definition here, and you know, I think that would be valuable contribution to the work group that's within the charter right now.
I can help with that. I think some of the earlier charts kind of hinted us with some of the problems we could discuss in a document like that.
Anybody else?
Yes, and since we're almost out of time, I would encourage everybody to continue this discussion on the list because, yeah, I think that would be useful and would also inform this gap analysis that we are going to do.
So was there anything else you wanted to cover on the document status? We skipped over this part.
Yeah, people can read it on the GI slides. So credit-based flow control is done. The drafts are in the RFC editor queue, and hopefully to come out in not too much time from now. Then we have the DLAP extensions from Henning Rolge from Fraunhofer. These have been adopted as working group documents quite some time ago. I have seen some discussion. More is always better, but maybe the way to bring out the discussion is to a working group, let's call them, somewhere, say within a month from now, and then we'll see what happens, and if they seem mature enough, then we will send them on their way out of the group.
Yeah, they're fairly small and compact drafts. I've looked over them, and I'm with the regards to being a shepherd for them. I know there's some routing area early review, and I'm going to make sure that those comments have been addressed. And then also, the only other thing is they have values, and there's a number of values like frequency, et cetera, that have been proposed. It would be good to get feedback that those are the right numbers and the right scale of numbers.
And then there's one more slide on individual drafts. And I want to apologize to Christopher Deerloff again for not getting around to reviewing his draft. If I do review it, I probably have to revisit RFC 7181 quite heavily to refresh my memory on that. I will also try to persuade Henning Rolge to have a look at this, because he's much more knowledgeable on all matters related to OLSR v2 than I am. But yeah, I would like to have done it, and I have to apologize again.
Okay, and with that, I think we're done. And unless there's any other questions, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the chairs and for having a quick session here. Thank you.
It wasn't a quick session, it was a MANET session.
I stand corrected.
Thank you all.